So, a reminder before the lesson begins, make sure you're taking notes and you're listening and watching for the keyword or phrase. Let's get to it. Okay, so here we are with lesson number 5. Today we're going to be talking about how we're going to solve and graph multi-step inequalities, and specifically with variables on both sides, while we're going to be graphing on a number line and not the coordinate plane. So it's a slight switch from what we've been doing with the system of inequalities. This is kind of going back a little bit to what we learned in 7th grade with your inequality symbols, number line, and so on. So the first thing that we want to think of are what are inequality symbols and how they're going to look like on a number line. How are we going to represent the different types of inequality symbols? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to draw my number line out just so I can get a visual. All right, so we have 4 different inequality symbols. We're going to talk about our greater than or equal to, our less than, and then less than or equal to. So with our inequality symbols, and just to give us a value to look at, we have x, and let's say our x values are going to be all in comparison to, let's go with -2. All right, so the first one, we have x is greater than -2. So we've talked about our greater than symbol. It's going to be more than -2, but not include -2. This would use our open circle, and our direction would be to the right on the number line. So if we moved our graph, we would have -2, and a greater value would be -1, and so on. So from here, that would be our graph for x is greater than -2. An open circle over -2 going to the right. Now, if we go to x is greater than or equal to -2, this inequality will actually include our -2 in the solution. So in order to represent that on the number line, we have to use a closed circle. And we are still talking about greater than, so it's still going to go to the right because every value that is greater than -2, such as -1, and so on, are going to be in the solution set. So here we go, and we would graph this over here above -2, and again going to the right because all values of x are greater than. Okay, so now we're going to move this back. We're going to graph the other two. X is less than -2. Again, since it's less than and not including -2, we want to keep our open circle, and we're going to go to the left this time. With x is less than or equal to -2, we have a closed circle, and again, it's less than, so all values that are lower, will be to the left on your number line. So again, here's how this would look on a number line. So our x is less than or equal to less than -2, and this would be our graph with x is less than or equal to -2. All right, so for our practice for number 1 and 2, we are going to translate our verbal expressions, so our number that exceeds 21, or x is at least -4.5, and then we're also going to graph it on a number line. We're going to create our own number line, because it's not given, and we're going to plot and represent that inequality there. So going back to translating expressions, we have a number that exceeds 21. So that's greater than 21, but not including. So pick any number, any variable. I'll do m is going to be greater than 21. You want to draw your number line. And from what we remember last year, we want to make sure our value is surrounded by at least 2 or 3 on each side. This way we can actually see the intervals. So if this is not including 21, we want an open circle, and we know it's going to be all values greater. So we know it's going to be values such as 22, 23, and so on. So we're going to go put an arrow to the right. And again, your arrow doesn't have to be all the way at the end, but it should be long enough where you can tell what values are going to be covered, which direction, and the arrow indicates that it keeps going on and on in that direction. All right, so number 2, x is at least negative 4.5. So they're giving us the variable. We have at least, which we know is going to be at the lowest, including negative 4.5. So x is going to be greater than or equal to negative 4.5. And then we have a closed circle above negative 4.5, and we're going to go to the right. All right, so for number 3, we have an inequality and we need to solve for A. So the first thing we're going to do is solve for A, and then we're going to graph it. Pause the video here and see what you come up with. Don't graph it yet. All right, so if I just rewrite everything, I have A plus 8. My negative 2 is getting distributed to A and negative 12. So I would get negative 2A plus 24 is going to be greater than 0. That's how I get rid of my parentheses. I distribute. I have A and negative 2A, and then I have plus 8 and plus 24. So I'm going to combine my like terms. I'm going to get negative A plus 8 plus 24 is 32 is greater than 0. I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. Negative A is greater than negative 32. So here is what's going to affect our inequality. We have a negative A. We're dividing by negative 1 in order to cancel out and get rid of that negative value just to get A. We know we're going to get A is going to have something to do with 32. Remember, when we divide or multiply by a negative coefficient, we're going to change our sign. So if this is greater than, we're going to make it less than. If it was greater than or equal to, it would become less than or equal to. So, but we would have just less than. So here we have A is less than 32. I want to graph, so I want to leave some room. So here is my number line. So it is an open circle over 32, and it's less than, so we're going to the left. And that would be my graphed inequality on a number line. All right, so try number 4, pause the video, and don't forget to graph on a number line. All right, for 4, we're going to subtract 12. This cancels out. This cancels out. All you're left with is 10W is greater than or equal to 8W. I'm going to subtract 8W, so I have a positive on my left. 8W minus 8W is still going to be 0. And I have 2W. Divide both sides by 2. W is going to be greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so now we have a closed circle because it's included, and it is going to go to the right. And that is my answer, graphed on a number line. All right, so again, this lesson is a combination of things that we've learned in the past. We're now introducing what happens when we have a negative value that we're dividing by, and what happens to your inequality. It changes, it flips. And then we're talking about graphing that inequality on a number line. But again, you have multi-step inequalities, very similar to solving an equation. Make sure you fill out the form, ask any questions that you need to if you still have any, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.